Hey everybody, this is JP Football Fanatics. We are here live. Not live, we're actually pre-recording this video tonight. And you guys will be able to get this later on whenever I get the chance to post it. So welcome. For tonight's topic, we are going to be talking about two different things. We're going to be talking about a lot of different coaching changes, two in particular that really caught my eye and my partner's eye. Joining me tonight, I did say partner. So my partner for tonight is Scott. He is here with me tonight in terms of talking about the coaching changes, and hopefully we'll be able to get some kind of some sort of insight, and we'll see what we can do. So Scott, thank you for joining me tonight.
No problem, man. Glad to be here.
Yeah. All right. So, are you ready to go into? Are you ready to
Yep.
go into it? All right. So let's go ahead. I'm going to share my screen, and then we'll get into the first coaching. We only have two topics to really talk about because these are the two in particular that kind of caught our eye. So we'll see how they go. They all go. So the first one, you guys have probably heard it. Heard it first. It came out, I believe, Wednesday, Thursday, around that time frame. So Carolina Panthers, they have found their new head coach moving forward after firing can't think of his name at the moment. It will come. Matt Rule. Thank you.
Matt Rule.
I knew it right at the top of my head. It was Matt, but I couldn't. But yes, Matt Rule got fired from Carolina earlier this season, in which Steve Wilkes took over as interim coach. But now the Carolina Panthers found their new coach, and that is the man, the myth, the legend himself, the guy that I don't think really deserved to get fired from Indy, is Frank Reich. So Frank Reich is going to be joining the Carolina Panthers for next season. So just kind of based off of how I feel about it, I think this is a good move for the Panthers. I really think the Panthers are a team. They're not bad whatsoever. I think they're roster ready. They have all the right pieces. They have the right weapons to throw to. I think they have the right running backs too. I mean, obviously you're missing Christian McCaffrey, and he's definitely missed for this team. But I think with Deontay Foreman, is a good one there, and Chuba Hubbard, who's also another really solid back for this team too. And then you got the receivers like DJ Morris. DJ Moore is still there, and those kind of people right there that are still in it, and a decent tight end. The offensive line is a little suspect. I don't think their offensive line is as good as it could be. That could be a little bit of work. But the biggest problem for Carolina was very, very, very similar to what Indy was facing, and that's quarterback. So unfortunately, in Frank's his coaching debut with Carolina, he's going to be dealing with a quarterback issue here. So he's going to probably have to choose between either Sam Darnold, Jay Corral, who they drafted last year's draft, or they would have to go to PJ Walker. There's no more Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield got traded during the season. I think that's just really Carolina's biggest issue is the quarterback. So Scott, I'll kind of start off with you. How do you feel about Frank Reich being the new head coach in Carolina? Do you think this is a good fit for him?
I think it's a solid fit. I'm a big Broncos fan, and if we could have had anybody, I wanted either Frank Reich or Sean Payton. We missed out on Frank Reich, so maybe we'll get Sean Payton. I have his coaching history pulled up on my phone, and he was actually with the Colts originally as an intern, and then he was part of the offensive staff back in 26 to 2010. No, actually 2011. Then he left, and then we previously saw him with the Eagles when he won their Super Bowl, and then he went to the Colts after McDaniels didn't take the job. And like you said, he kind of got the boot wrongly in my mind as well. And I think he's one of the better coaching candidates out there. Not anymore, but now he has a team where he can properly build in like his form. As long as they get a quarterback that they can, take them somewhere. Right now they have Sam Darnold and Matt Corral, I believe, and Sam Darnold. He did show flashes last year, but I don't think he is the guy to take them really that far. As far as the running backs, they don't really have anybody that's worth. It's not Christian McCaffrey. They could look to the draft. I don't know how many picks they have or what else they need, but that is another hole. Not as big as the quarterback, but still something that they need to work on. They have DJ Moore. That's a good starting receiver. I don't know if he's an elite wide receiver one, but he is definitely a solid number two. Could be a number one with the right quarterback. We haven't ever seen it yet, so we just don't know yet. As far as Frank Reich as a whole, he did come from that whole. He was the offense coordinator when the Eagles won the Super Bowl. The Eagles coach right now, Nick Sirianni, was part of his staff when 2 or 3 years ago until he left. So he does have that history. He is an Andy Reid kind of guy. He does build good coaches around him. So I think it's a great hire for them overall.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think you nailed everything that I was going to say too. Obviously, the biggest issue is going to be a quarterback, and I think if they draft some linemen in there too, they definitely need an offensive line because they were very suspect a little bit in that beginning half of the year. But quarterback is going to be the biggest thing that's going to probably take this team, probably have this team have a little bit of step back. I think Sam Darnold, with the amount of games that he did play, was decent under Steve Wilks and Ben McAdoo. I'm not a big Ben McAdoo guy whatsoever. As a former Giants coach that he was, and as a Giants fan, I'm not crazy for Ben McAdoo. But I will say though, I think he was able to. I think he was more better treated, Sam Darnold and PJ Walker, than Baker Mayfield was. I just don't think Baker Mayfield's capability into that scheme was just very good under Ben McAdoo's offense. But I like Frank Reich. I think, in my personal opinion, if he would have stayed with the Colts, they probably would have won a couple of more games, even though they didn't have a lot to show for them, even with Matt Ryan as their quarterback or Sam Ellinger. I think that was just a kind of a way for them to just, scurry them on out of there, which was definitely unfair. I think Frank Reich's one of the best head coaches in this league. And for him not to have a job, during that time period of when he was fired was, very absurd in my opinion. So I think Carolina's a good fit. I think unfortunately he's going to have to go through that quarterback carousel yet again, but he is going to have a lot of quarterbacks to work with. He'll have Sam Darnold. He'll have Matt Corral, which I confused it with Jay Corral. So fans, I apologize. And he's going to have PJ Walker. So those are the three that he's going to be working with. We're probably going to see a lot of quarterback competitions going on in this offseason. I think he can help this team be above 500, maybe even a playoff team. And when you take a look at their division that they're in the NFC South. I mean, who do they really have in there that's really competitive? I mean, you've got the Falcons are kind of up there. We'll see how they are next year. They're a fun team to watch, but they're not really a team that really strikes my mind. The Bucs might be going down if Tom Brady decides to leave there or retire. And then you got the Saints, who are also in trouble for finding a decent quarterback too, a caliber starting quarterback that's going to take them to that next level. So I think Carolina's just around there. I think they're around that same kind of talent level. Maybe they could probably take a tier up this year now that they have Reich as the coach. I think he's going to help this team be successful. I think he's going to really hammer the fact that this is a team that's not going to give up. And knowing Frank Reich as a coach, and when he was a former NFL player, I don't know if you've ever watched Hard Knocks before, but I watched Hard Knocks from last season, and last year's team was the Colts, and that was the year that Carson Wentz was the quarterback. They also explained it in there too about Frank Reich and how the guy never gives up. He started out that season with a losing record. And then they also mentioned when he was a player too, he was like a comeback player for when he played for Buffalo way back in the day. So the guy's not going to give up. The guy's obviously he wants to win. He wants his team to win, and he's going to do everything possible that he can do to help this team succeed.
Yeah. Kind of lost what I was going to say, but yeah, for Frank Reich, I think that once they nail down the quarterback, they'll have more of a chance than they do right now. With I don't want to get too much off top, but you did go around the Falcons, the Saints, and the
The Bucks.
Bucks, yeah, the Bucks in their division. I do think the Bucks are going to fall when Tom Brady probably leaves. I don't think he'll really re-sign with them, mostly because I'm not a big fan of Todd Bowles as a coach. He wasn't great with the Jets, and then he was previously with the Cardinals with Bruce Arians, and then when Bruce Arians left the Cardinals, he went to the Jets. He saw how he wasn't, head coach material, and then they both went to the Bucks. And you can see now from Bruce Arians to Todd Bowles, it was really Bruce Arians who was the genius and not really Todd Bowles doing that much. I think he's a defensive minded coach to begin with. So, which is kind of weird. They fired Bill Lazor and it really wasn't him that was the downfall of the Bucks. But I think that team's kind of going to be up and down the next few years until they find a quarterback. The Falcons, in another pod later in the date, I kind of want to shoot on maybe them trading for Ryan Tannehill if the Titans want to let go of him and try to start over with someone else. There is rumor that, maybe Aaron Rodgers could go there. We don't know. There's another coaching that just got hired actually that we should shoot on, but we could shoot on a different date with Hackett. And as far as the Saints go, I personally like Jameis Winston. I think he got a bad hand when he got into the league. That year that he threw 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions, he was bad. That is a lot of interceptions, but he did throw for 4,900 yards. There's not a lot of players that throw for 5,000 yards in the league. So he does have the potential to sling it out there. I think he got a bad hand this year when he did get injured and they did sit him for a while, but the coach chose the Red Rifle, the soulless ginger, Andy Dalton, who doesn't really do anything for your offense, which is why they didn't win many games. And I would actually like them to go back to Jameis Winston next year to see what they have, because he definitely gives you more potential than what Andy Dalton gives. So as far as the Panthers as a whole in their division, I think that they may sit around 500 for the next year or two, depending on what they add with free agency and draft picks. We'll see where they go from there. But that's just my take on them and inside the division.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit. I think Frank Reich understands that as a coach. I think we understand it as podcasting legends and, avid football fanatics and whatnot. But it is going to be a while. I don't think this team is going to go right into like the conference championships. I don't think they're going to the Super Bowls just yet. I think they're a long ways to go from that. I think they just need to fix those little parts. I mean, last year they were able to kind of hang in there a little bit after they traded away Baker Mayfield and they had PJ Walker stepping up to the plate. And PJ Walker, in my opinion, is not a very good quarterback. I don't think he's really anything that separates away from Sam Darnold or Baker Mayfield. I don't think there's much separation there. But there were some key moments that he was able to work with as far as his play goes. Sam Darnold, on the other hand, I think is maybe the slightly better quarterback. That could be a hot take for some people, but Sam Darnold does have some capability of succeeding. But I think it's mostly like what we've watched with Daniel Jones this year. Obviously, his stats look impressive, but at the same time, if you can find the quarterback to limit mistakes like Darnold is one of the biggest, prones to throwing interceptions and turning the ball over very easily. And that's what the Panthers were able to do as of this year. They were able to kind of work around Sam Darnold. They kind of limited his mistakes and throwing interceptions and fumbling the ball a little bit. Maybe Frank Reich might be able to turn Sam Darnold into something that we haven't really seen yet from him in his career. And I think a lot of it does come down from him being being drafted from the Jets. I think that also has a lot to do with it. And Adam Gase, who was probably one of the worst head coaches, if not the worst head coach in NFL history, in my opinion. And that was not helping Sam Darnold at all whatsoever. I mean, he has not had a legit good starting head coach. And if he is the starting quarterback going into next year, Frank Reich could be that guy that probably could help him, turn the corner.
Yeah, I mean, I believe the same thing because I'm all about like head coaching and like OC and DC that like fit the team. Like if you're not a great OC or DC, you more than likely won't be a great head coach. And there are some offense coordinators and defense coordinators that just stay in their roles. For like the longest time, they want Eric Bieniemy to become a head coach, and I'm the guy in the background sitting. Well, he's winning the Super Bowl or he's winning the conference championship, and he's winning 10 plus games every year with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Why would he give up his job to go to a different situation with a quarterback that he may not know how to coach and he may not know how to build a team around? A guy like Frank Reich is built to be a head coach. He might have not done it great in the Colts organization, but they didn't give him much to work with.
No, I mean, look at the quarterback he had. He had Andrew Luck. That was probably the best quarterback he had. End of his career. He was the best quarterback they had. And after Peyton Manning, and they let him walk out the door. And it was for good reason, because he was getting hurt all the time and they refused to build an offensive line. After he left, you had Jacoby Brissett, not starting quarterback worthy. You had Philip Rivers, who was already at the end of his career anyway. Then you had Carson Wentz. That didn't work out. And then you had Matt Ryan, who's probably going to retire at the end of this season. We can definitely touch bases on that another day. And then you had to go to Sam Ellinger, and that obviously wasn't working. So so after Andrew Luck retired was when the carousel of the quarterback started to assemble. And, now he's going to have that similar situation in Carolina, I think. But I think with the more potential I see in Sam Darnold, maybe he could help him turn the corner around. We'll see. I mean, I try to believe in every player that steps out there on the field. I mean, obviously, if you and I stepped out there on the field, let's be honest, we probably would get ourselves crushed. Let's be honest. You know what I mean? Like, the fans, they can, be as blind as they want to, or say whatever they want about their players. But if they were out there too, they probably wouldn't do any better than what those players are out there for, and they're getting paid for a valid reason, and that's because of their freak of nature.
Well, I mean, you touched on it earlier. You mentioned Daniel Jones, and let's compare Daniel Jones' career as a whole. What did he do his first 4 years without Bill O'Brien, or not Bill O'Brien?
Brian Daboll.
Yeah, Brian Daboll. I mean, Brian Daboll wasn't the head coach. He had Joe Judge. I think honestly, it was the last three coaches. So it might have been Pat. I don't think it was McAdoo. McAdoo was probably before his time, but it was.
He's had
Pat
Shurmur, who was
Pat Shurmur.
He wasn't a good head coach. Then he had Joe Judge, a special teams head coach.
Yeah, and then he had Joe Judge.
And now he's got Brian Daboll, who was Josh Allen's his quarterback's coach.
Yeah, so compare his beginning of the career to this last year. It looks entirely different because you get a head coach that actually knows what he's doing. Joe Judge and Pat Shurmur didn't know what they were doing. That's why they fizzed out as fastly as they did. The Panthers were talking about, and I hated this whole rumor during the year. Matt Jobberwell got fired. I was a big fan of him just because of what he did in college. But sometimes it's different from college to NFL. We all see that.
Urban Meyer found that out quickly.
Yeah. And I didn't see when Nick Saban was the head coach of the Dolphins, but I would have loved to seen that back in the day. But they were talking about when they got Steve Wilkes, who I don't like at all. They were trying to make a whole big deal about he might get hired as the coach at the end of the year. I was like, yeah, that definitely don't want to see that happen. We saw what happened to the Arizona Cardinals when he was a head coach. Worst hiring, in my opinion. Josh Rosen, who I was big on when he was a draft prospect, got a terrible hand when he got into the league. We never know if he was going to be great or not, because he got 1 year as a starter and then he bounced from team to team to team because he was with Steve Wilkes and that horrible Cardinals team in that 1 year. So this is a good turnaround, not to go from bad coach to another bad coach to another bad coach. This is actually for the Panthers organization. They will probably have him as long as they, fix the different pieces that they need to fix. That Frank Reich could be a 5-10 year plus coach there, as long as they win, and as long as they're willing to give him like some type of string. You know what I mean? He's not like a 1 year and done. He's not like the Houston Texans with their last two coaches, or like the Browns before they found whoever their coach is now. I can't.
Stefanski.
Yeah, Kevin Stefanski. They went from coach to coach to coach, which is not as good for the organization. But you need to find a guy like Frank Reich to manage your offense or manage your team, and hopefully he can put it together and put it down the right path.
And I think he can. I really do think he can. I think he could help this team get to the playoffs. And like I said, I think the division is going to be the biggest thing for him to be able to win, because I think all the teams next year are going to be right around the same. So I don't really expect all of them to be above 500. I think the Carolina Panthers have the better shot. And in my personal opinion, he might even be the best coach in the NFC South.
Yeah, that's a hot take, but it's a valid one. Like I said, I don't like Todd Bowles, and he's going to be the head coach of the Bucks.
And I don't think Arthur Smith is anything bad. I don't think Arthur Smith is bad either, but he's definitely not a Frank Reich though, for sure.
Yeah. Well, he's one of the guys that I want to hit on. I think he's going into year 3, if I'm not mistaken. And the Falcons are giving him, a third year after not doing that much in the first 2 years, which is great if they do land Ryan Tannehill in a trade. Ryan Tannehill had his best year with Arthur Smith as the OC for the Titans. So if that transition happens, then you might see, that team come back to, being a 500 team or over 500. They have all those weapons on offense that they could be, the favorite for that division.
And it would be
is one of those. Yeah, this is one of those divisions where anybody can take it after this. If Tom Brady leaves, then the whole division's up for grabs.
Definitely. And it would be kind of interesting if they do trade Ryan Tannehill and Marcus Mariota goes back to Tennessee. That would be kind of an interesting take.
Well, I don't think they would trade him back to Tennessee. I think they would just let him because I think they signed him to a 1-year deal with the Falcons. So I think they just let him go. Marcus Mariota, he was never anything too special in my mind.
No, I mean, I don't think he was definitely as bad as people wanted him to think, but I just think a lot of the issues as well for him, it was just they didn't work around the scheme that he was successful in, whereas Arthur Smith was able to allow to work that in, and that's kind of why he was, decent enough to help the team get to some wins, but definitely not a good pocket passer, and he's not a long-term answer for the team. So, in my closing thoughts about the Panthers, I think they have a good shot. I think they really do really good things as far as for next season. I think the future is bright for them. I think they're heading in the right direction, and I think it starts with head coaching and Frank Reich. I really do.
Yeah, as do I.
Alrighty, so we can go on to the next one here, I guess. So next one is Bill O'Brien. So Bill O'Brien is coming back to the New England Patriots. He is now considered as the new offensive coordinator. Well, not new, because he was there once before when McDaniels left for, I guess it was a year or two, when McDaniels was the head coach over in Denver for that brief time and was not very good with them there. So he was able to command the offensive coordinator spot and everything. So this is interesting for me. I mean, is it a surprise that the Patriots hired back yet another former Patriots coach? Not so whatsoever. I mean, look at Matt Patricia. He came back. Look at Joe Judge.
Yeah,
look at Joe Judge. Joe Judge is back at special teams. Matt Patricia calling offensive plays, even though he doesn't know what he's doing on offense and the defensive guy. But now they shift his role to where now he's going to be in the front office, which I think is definitely a better suit for him. But so how does this really help Mac Jones and this Patriots offense next season? to be quite honest with you, I think in a way, uh, I think it kind of does. I mean, I don't. I think there's definitely a much more separation between O'Brien and Patricia for sure. I don't. I think Patricia stinks as an offensive coordinator because he's not an offensive guy. I think they did the right thing by getting someone like Bill O'Brien back into the offense. But I'm just more in question was like, is this offense going to help Mac Jones out? And knowing like with Mac Jones from last season was not very pretty for him. And why would you may ask? Well, it was because of Matt Patricia. Mac Jones was a quarterback that a system quarterback that fits right into a certain system. And when he got to New England and went into the Josh McDaniel system, that was a good system with him. And he had the best rookie season out of all the rookie quarterbacks that year. Everyone had a terrible season except for Mac Jones. So I think there's still a lot of promise in Mac Jones. I think he is the Patriots starting quarterback moving forward. I I think this is a good hire because I think now with a pretty bold, I would say, and in a way, a very fiery coach like Bill O'Brien. Like, let's be honest, Bill Belichick gets fiery, but he definitely does not like get. I don't think he's like as fiery with like the quarterbacks play as much as Bill O'Brien is because we've seen him in action when him and Brady had that big tiff back in the 2010-2011 season. They were playing the Redskins at the time. And when Brady threw that interception in the end zone, they both got into a little fight. You probably it's all over YouTube if you ever wanted to check that out. But in the meantime, I think he's someone that can get Mac Jones back into the right system. I think he can help him uh, succeed and put last season behind him. And I think they can get rolling a bit with offense. And I think he's going to get more involved, in my opinion, with the draft because I think if Bill Belichick has one more year where he messes up the draft and does not draft any other good players in this draft, then Bill Belichick might not have a good season. Therefore, he might retire after next season if they don't make it to the playoffs yet again. So, with all that being said, I think getting Bill O'Brien obviously did not work out in Houston. It was a shame that it didn't work out, but obviously Houston had a lot of other issues going on as it was. They didn't give Deshaun Watson like the help that he really needed. I mean, offensively they had some players like Brandon Cooks was there and DeAndre Hopkins until he decided to trade away DeAndre Hopkins to Arizona. That was a terrible move by them, by the way. But I think he is going to take this step forward. I think he's going to help Mac. I think he'll help this offense get to the right path. And I think he's going to get more involved with the draft. I really do. And I think if he gets involved with the draft, he'll draft the right receivers that he needs because Jacoby Myers is not a number one receiver. Let's be honest. He's really not. And Kendrick Bourne is, I think he's more like a Kadarius Toney. I think you need to use him more. So I think he's fine there, but you need if you have another receiver and you draft offensive line and that's pretty much what you really need. You just need to help out Mac. And I think this could really work out for him for the best. So Scott, I'll give it to you. What are your thoughts about this hiring?
So I brought up his Wikipedia page where it shows his history of coaching, and actually I didn't hear about this, but Bill O'Brien was the offense coordinator for Alabama the last 2 years. Surprisingly enough, it was after Mac Jones, so I would have thought that it was during his career. That's why they could have made that connection, but it was right after his career, so it was when Bryce Young was the quarterback. So if we really want to know how good of an offense coordinator he is, yeah, I see that. We'll ask Bryce Young. But when he was the head coach for the Texans, he did so many things wrong that he dug his own grave. And when they gave him the power to be a general manager, it was just a big no. You never give a coach like that much power. It didn't work out for Chip Kelly, and it didn't work out for Bill O'Brien. But I think him becoming the offense coordinator is better suited for him than it was Matt Patricia. He's a defensive minded coach, and So going from defensive to OC, works for some coaches, but definitely didn't work for him. And we saw in year one with Mac Jones, he was a Pro Bowler in his rookie season. This year, he just fell off a cliff and never got down from being splattered on the ground. So hopefully it's, different for them. I don't know. I still want to see the Patriots kind of fall on their face because I'm not a Patriots fan, but that's just me. I think it's kind of saving Bill Belichick's job in a sense because, if he did like teeter around another year or two, they probably would have let him go. But at this same point, he has this relationship with Robert Kraft that he does, and he won so many Super Bowls with Tom Brady that, they'll probably give him a couple more years, so long as that they can get back to the playoffs. With that rookie deal that rookie year that Mac had, they got back to the playoffs. They got destroyed by the Bills in the wild card, but they did get back. So overall, I like this hiring as a better than what they had. Not like a fireworks, oh, this is huge hiring, but it'll be definitely something better to see for the Patriots if you're a Patriots fan than what you saw last year.
Yeah.
And I do think that they do need to draft some wide receivers, something. I think Stevenson is a great running back. I hope they give him all of it just because we're both big fantasy guys, and I would love to see more of that. But other than that, they gotta give Mac Jones something to work with. Parker's not that good, and who's that other guy you mentioned? Jacoby. He's not that great either. And they got these two tight ends that they paid big bucks to that they need to use before their contracts run out because they got two big tight ends and they just need to use them somehow.